Rapper Tay-K, who gave us F a beat, I was trying to beat a case, would do everything but that when he was arrested for 2 homicides in 2016.
15-year-old Tamar McIntyre has been arrested in New Jersey by the U.S. Marshal Service. He's been being held there pending his extradition back here to Texas. McIntyre, who's from Arlington, is suspected in a capital murder case and had been described as a violent fugitive. He's been the subject of a nationwide manhunt. New at 6, video of teen rapper Tay-K as police question him about his role in a deadly home invasion in Mansfield. The video was shown to the jury this afternoon in Tamar McIntyre's capital murder trial. Jason Allen is live inside the Tim Curry Criminal Justice Center in Fort Worth with the details. Jason?
And Gilma, the doors of the court are just cracking open here behind me. It looks like they have just finished up for the evening. The jury today, not only in that video, heard Tamar McIntyre admit to being part of this crime when it happened, they also heard from a man who was shot that night and survived.
This video from almost 3 years ago shows a 16-year-old Tamar McIntyre in a small room with police, uncomfortable, wiping his eyes at times, and finally admitting to investigators he played a role in a home invasion and murder in Mansfield.
Man, when I first heard about this case, I had no idea that Tay-K snitched on everybody, and his best friend didn't snitch on him at all and got 30 years because of it. See what I told you guys about these streets? That's a side part of the story that kind of bothered me that nobody's talking about. But either way, he went out sad because to regular people, he's a killer. And to street dudes, he's a rat. How you gonna be both? Catching bodies and snitching? The game is way different than it used to be. As soon as the police grabbed him, he said, "I was just a kid. I didn't know anything." But as soon as he got in that interrogation room, he gave up everybody. But cops weren't buying it. They actually had him on camera in 4K, catching another body by himself. This time, he was the lone shooter.
He was excited. His passion was photography. His passion was taking photographs and wanted to make that his career. He was young. He was just 20 years old. Tamar McIntyre was almost 17 years old. He was an up-and-coming rapper that contacted Mark about this photo shoot. And when Tamar came over to pick up Mark from his house, at his mother's house, Mark went outside with his backpack and his camera, very definable white type camera, ran off to this car down the street, a black Kia. Little did he know he was getting into that car, and then we'd be falling off that car later on, shot by this individual that's sitting right over there.
They had the ballistics, 4K video, and TK's own girlfriend came and testified against him. TK was found guilty immediately. Now, the only weird thing I saw in the next clip was that TK's family actually thought he beat this case. Like he was actually going to live out his lyrics in the courtroom. Unfortunately, they started celebrating, thanking God, before they heard the full sentence and had to be escorted out.
Right. It's the court's understanding from the deputy that a verdict has been reached in this case. This is what I'm going to tell all the parties who are present in this courtroom. There's not to be any outbursts. If there's an outburst, what's going to end up happening is a deputy is going to tap you on the shoulder. There's no need to get into a conversation with the deputy. That tap on the shoulder is meaning that you are to leave this courtroom, and you will only be allowed back in this courtroom if you're going to be a witness. Does everyone understand?
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone who cannot do that? So, both parties, for the state and the defense, if you need to talk to members who are currently in court that are either with the state or defense, you may do so now. Otherwise, I'm going to bring the jury in.
I think everyone knows to be on their best behavior, Your Honor.
All right, let's bring the jurors in.
All right, for the jury. People on the car.
All right, everyone, please be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's my understanding that you've reached a verdict in this case. Is that correct?
Yes.
And is that verdict unanimous?
Yes.
All right, if you will give the verdict form to Deputy Laura, please. Thank you. All right, if the defendant could please stand. We, the jury, find the defendant, Tamar McIntyre, not guilty of the offense of capital murder. What did I, excuse me, no. No, out of the courtroom. Out of the courtroom now.
Yes.
All right. Now, like I said, Tay-K's family thought he got off, but they only heard the first charge, not the remaining charges. But he wouldn't be found guilty of the capital M. I guess he'd be found guilty of the lowercase m, but I don't know how that works. Let me know in the comments. But the evidence was clear, including 4K footage. The only thing that sits kind of off with me is the fact that his family could be celebrating his possible release when they know deep down in their hearts that he's guilty. It just shows that something's really off with his family, or maybe even the community itself.
Times, as you can tell, people are invested, correct? So it says, we, the jury, find the defendant, Tamar McIntyre, not guilty of the offense of capital murder as charged in the indictment. We, the jury, find the defendant, Tamar McIntyre, guilty of the lesser included offense of murder. Does anyone wish to have the jury polled?
Not the state, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. And do you want them polled as to both counts?
As to the count of conviction, Your Honor.
All right, you may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you if...
This is what happens when you make the worst decisions. This is that moment when all that fake tough guy-ish catches up to you. This is the craziest position to be in at this age. Tay-K could have had it all, but now you're sitting there looking stuck, like reality just slapped you in the face. This is what happens when you become a YN and succeed. This is what you graduate to. This or a casket. So pick one. You wanted that street diploma? Well, here it go. Now you got life. No more options, no more chances, just cold walls and lost time. All the millions, all that fame, none of it mean nothing now. Bro gonna spend the rest of his life thinking about what he threw away. That's the biggest L you could ever take. So now we get to sentencing, and this part's wild too. His sister jumped on the stand like she was gonna save him with her testimony. The only reason I don't think it resonated with the judge and the courts, because the reason that she gave, not good at all. She tried to explain why he became who he is, but the reasoning was just off. To be honest, things can happen to us in our past. But you're grown and you made all these choices yourself, and now you gotta live with them.
His punishments were too big for, like, the thing, like, if we got bad grades, then we would be punished. Like, he would, it started off by maybe the whoopings got worse and worser, and then now it's not a belt. Now it's a 2x4, and we get a certain number of hits, and we get hit with it, and we have to lay there and we can't get up. And it was times when Tamar was younger than me, so Tamar was younger than me, and he would cry, and just maybe they would think he was over dramatic, so they would tie him down to an ironing board, strap him down, like stuff like that.
That ain't no excuse for him to get a pass or get hit with some light sentence. Plenty of kids grew up with strict parents, got disciplined hard, and they ain't out here catching bodies. Just because you got whooped or grew up in a rough house don't mean you turn into a two-time killer. What makes it worse, none of the people who did it to did dirt to him at all. He wasn't going at enemies. These were random people. Folks' only crime was just being in Tay-K's sights. He beat down an old man in the park for no reason. He killed a photographer who ain't even cross him. He hit a home invasion, set somebody up. They died, and again, they ain't do nothing to him. So, nah, miss me with that he had it rough growing up excuse. That don't cut it.
You said that these were examples of over-disciplining you both for things in the house?
Maybe bad grades, maybe like, yeah, just bad grades and stuff like that. We weren't bad kids to be doing going and doing anything we didn't have any business. We were too young, and we moved around a lot to know what's going on in our outside world. We were just learning. So it would be stuff like bad grades and stuff like.
Were there ever any signs that you were being hurt this way, or things that other people would notice?
Yes.
Give me some examples.
Bruises, busted lips, noses. People have witnessed before.
Did any of these things ever come to the attention of your teachers or other adults outside your house?
Tamar's teacher noticed.
Okay. What happened when she noticed?
I wasn't there the exact moment. A certain teacher took a, maybe noticed Tamar and built a relationship with him. And one day he had some type of bruising or something on his face. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was a black eye or what, but the teacher ended up asking him, and he ended up being honest with her, and the school intervened, and they called our dad and our stepmom. Our stepmom came to the school, and they ended up talking to us, saying that we can't have any contact with our dad, and they just released us to her the same day.
Okay, but she was living in the same house as your dad, or
yes.
No?
Man, all them sad story narratives that she was trying to push, that is not going to move Judge Boyd. If he thought that speech from his sister was going to get him showed some mercy, he was way off. If he wanted a whole different result, he needed a whole different judge, because Judge Boyd don't care about none of that. She don't want to hear it. All that, feel sorry for me because I had a bad childhood, not taking any kind of accountability, that wasn't going to fly. I don't know if they thought, hey, maybe it's a black woman judge, she's going to show us a little bit of leniency. But they must not have checked out Judge Boyd's track record, because that speech his sister gave didn't move her one bit. She looked Tay-K dead in the face, pulled out her gavel, and said 80 years. Straight like that. You'll never be breathing free air ever again. Or will he?
Mr. McIntyre, I want you to know that I listened to all of the evidence in punishment and thought about whether or not your sentence should be stacked. I don't know where your mom is, don't know where your father is. I know that you had a rough childhood. And I do know that these offenses occurred when you were very young. And I understand the state of the law, what people consider an adult. I listened to the testimony of the expert that was brought by defense counsel. You've already been sentenced to murder in the other county, and then you have a murder here. And the sentence for 55 years, that's a stiff sentence. This 80-year sentence is a stiff sentence. And these are cases where you have to serve half your time, and that's day for day time, and I recognize that. Hopefully you will grow, but based upon his age, based upon the number of years that he has received out of Tarrant County and the number of years that he's received here, based upon his history and the lack of any type of good parenting. From what I can tell, his mother wasn't a good parent to him. His father wasn't a good parent to him. Child Protective Services was not good. And if you believe the testimony, I don't know why Child Protective Services would place children back with a father who put the children's mother in the hospital. Is there something else that needs to be done with our society? Yes. Is more money need for Child Protective Services and their workers? Yes. And I do realize that while this is a lot of time, and I tell people all the time, any time that you do in custody is a lot of time. But by that same token, you're still alive. And what the state has said is true. You're still alive. You can still better yourself. If you end up in prison for the rest of your life, you're still alive. You still can improve yourself. Your family can still visit you. But the complainant in this case is deceased. And you need to internalize that the complainant in this case is deceased and that his family is never going to see him again. So you're going to have to make changes. And you're going to have to remove people from your life who are not of benefit in the means of making you a better person. And I do understand that sometimes people will go to prison, they join gangs because you need protection, because you're there by yourself, you're young, but you're going to have to make better choices. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm going to sentence him to 80 years in the prison, give him credit for any time served. There is a $0 fine. This will run concurrent with 1511547D.
Now here's the crazy part. She may have gave him 80 years, but she ran them together. That's concurrent, not consecutive. So technically, that was a small win for him. So Judge Boyd ended up giving him 25 years on top of his original 55-year sentence, which, like I said, is still a small win because that means he's only sentenced to 80 years instead of 135 years. It still could be considered his life, but it's not as bad as it could have been. And that's it. That's the end of the TK story. F a beat. I was trying to beat a case, but I ain't beat that case. We know what happened. You could have been a multimillionaire, went platinum, lived a rapper life, but he picked the streets. And when you pick the streets, you throw away all of that. The money, the fame, even your future, gone. Now he's known for the wrong reasons. He went from being famous to infamous, and he's gonna sit in a cell for the rest of his life with nothing but time to think about all the wrong mistakes he made. But if you made it this far, don't forget to click the left side of your screen to see why Shannon's new $50 million lawsuit could be the end of him. And also, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, share to be aware, put me in the algorithms I need to be there, man. I know there's 10 other streamers out there doing it like me, but
Fuck that little 10. I'm maxed out.